So last time we introduced the staffing function of management. So today we are going to talk about human resource planning. And when we look at human resource, basically we are talking about the people who are working for a particular organization. And in order to realize or in order to make sure that work flows well, the human resource department has that responsibility of ensuring that at the end of the day, the human capital is filled. In the event there is a position that is vacant, the work of the human resource is to be able to ensure that they bring the right people to the organization. But before they bring the right people, they must have planned for it. And that is why we talk about the human resource planning. So what is human resource planning? According to Eric Velter, human resource planning is the process by which management determines how an organization should move from its present manpower position to its desired manpower position. So this is a process that helps managers to be able to determine the gaps that they have in the organization in terms of human capital or in terms of manpower. So human resource planning helps the organization to analyze the current market power. And when we talk about current or present market power, we are talking about the people who are already working for that organization. And they will always look at the various departments and try to analyze the manpower vis-a-vis the work that they are doing. So in the event there is a gap, therefore, that is when human resource planning comes into play. So the work of human resource planning is to ensure that they are able to understand the gaps that are present in the manpower and try to fill those gaps so that at the end of the day, they will have what is called the desired manpower in the organization. So human resource planning is a strategy for the procurement, development, allocation, and utilization of organizations' human resource. So human resource planning is a strategy or a plan that an organization has on how they are going to procure for new employees into that organization. And remember, it is a very complex process in that you also require resources. You have to involve other stakeholders to ensure that the process of human resource planning is more effective and efficient. And that is why we are talking about procurement. We are talking about development. We are trying to develop the capital in terms of human capital. Then once you have what it takes, then you allocate the various resources that will help you to get the desired manpower that you want. And once you do that, then you can utilize the resources that you have to get the human resource that is needed in that organization. So it is very important, before you can jump into trying to plan, you need to, first of all, you do some evaluation and try to understand how many people do we need? What is the desired manpower? And you also need to look at other factors that might lead to the organization wanting to get more manpower. And remember, last week we talked about various reasons that might lead to a gap in manpower in the organizations. And one of the reasons we gave, we said that sometimes you get employees are promoted to other positions. If that is the case, then the human resource will have to plan for those employees so that they will backfill those positions and bring new members to the organization. We can also have an organization where we have a high employee turnover, where most employees are leaving that organization. And one of the reasons that could lead to this could be the working environment, which is not favorable. And employees opt to look for other opportunities elsewhere, and many other reasons. Therefore, it is very important for the human resource to always have a plan in place so that in the event these issues happen, they can always fill those positions. Another reason that can be very common is the succession, where older employees are retiring, and therefore you need new blood in the system. This is very, very important, and therefore the human resource will have that responsibility of ensuring that they create a gap or a bridge between the current manpower and the desired manpower. So what are some of the human resource planning needs? Human resource planning need. Remember, we said human resource planning is something that you do before. So it is a pre-activity. And the main focus of this activity is to ensure that you try to foresee some of the human needs that are needed in that organization. So that at the end of the day, it becomes easier for you to be able to create a balance between the demand and supply of human capital or human resource within the organization. So human resource planning is needed for foreseeing the human resource requirement of an organization and supply of human resource. So you need to identify the various needs in every department so that you analyze those needs. And if it is important, then you can easily create that bridge or gap. You need to narrow the gap between the current employees who are working for that organization and the desired employees. So it needs can be assessed from the following points. So number one is replacement of persons. You can either replace people who might have left the organization because of some different reasons. The first reason can be the reason of retirement, where once somebody reaches the age of retirement, which is I think 55 or 60 in other organizations, then you will be required to replace those people who are leaving the organization by virtue of their age, or even sometimes you can call them early retirement, where somebody feels he or she is not going to wait up to 60 years before she or he can retire. So therefore, if those opportunities arise, then the human resource will be required to replace those persons. Then the other one is old age. Sometimes when you continue growing, you become old. And those activities that you used to do as a young person, sometimes might be difficult to do it when you are old. So if old or of age catches up with you, then you will be required to leave the organization because you no longer are active or productive. Therefore, that can also lead to the human resource to replace a person. And sometimes you might be working in an organization, then all of a sudden, because of some reasons that are beyond us, you end up dying while working for that organization. In such scenarios or in such contingencies, then you will be required to replace those persons. The other reason that might lead to need in the organization, human resource need, is labor turnover. Labor turnover. When we talk about labor turnover, what comes into our mind is that majority of employees are leaving that organization because of some reasons that are known to them. Some of the reasons might be because of poor working condition, where the employees feel that they are not treated well. Therefore, if that is the case, then it becomes very difficult. So what are some of the reasons that might lead to an organization high turnover of employees? Number one, we can say poor working condition, poor working condition. Number 2, we can talk about greener pastures. Greener pastures. And when we talk about greener pastures, these are avenues where employees are looking for new opportunities elsewhere. And this might also lead to the labor turnover. And the other thing is the lack of promotions, where employees are not promoted, yet they are qualified for those positions, where we have a lot of nepotism and tribalism when it comes to promotions. And some employees might feel, indeed, it is high time for me to leave the organization. What other reasons could lead to high employee turnover? What other reasons could lead to high employee turnover? Ali?
Separations on disciplinary grounds.
For disciplinary grounds also, summary dismissal, disciplinary issues, or summary dismissal, Yes, Rosalind?
Maybe poor culture.
Yes?
Poor culture in an organization.
Yeah, you might be having unfriendly culture in the organization. For example, when you go to an organization, you realize everybody is corrupt. Even if you want to bring changes in that organization, it becomes very difficult. So if you're a person of integrity, you feel this is not the right place for me. So you end up leaving that organization, and many other reasons that might lead to employee turnover. Other reasons could be maybe employees are not paid well, and this might affect. Remember, one of the leading motivators of any employee in an organization is financial aspect. So if you don't pay your employees well, then they will not be able to cater for their needs. And this might force them to start thinking on how they are going to leave that organization, which is very, very dangerous. Then another reason that might lead to needs is expansion plans. An expansion plan is where the organization, because they want to increase their capacity and their customer base, they will feel that they want to expand their branch or they want to diversify their business. For example, a good example I normally use is Equity Bank. Equity Bank started as a microfinance, and over the years, they have grown into a bank. Nowadays, they are trying to diversify their activities. And you can see that they have opened new branches of their equity affair so that they can also capitalize on the health sector and other issues. For example, they are also expanding their market. Recently, I think the last 2 years, they have opened new branches in other parts of the of Africa. For example, they went to Rwanda, where they have opened their branch there. And they are also planning to open more branches in other parts of Africa. So if that is a plan, then it means at the end of the day, you will require to bring new people into the organization. You'll also be required as an organization to have due positions for those people. So if that is the case, then it is very important to bring new people into the organization. Then we're also talking about technological changes. Remember, we are in the era of technology. And technology is no longer a dream, but a reality to many of us. For example, right now we are using technology to teach you people. So if technology changes, it means the organization has to change with the change in technology. Therefore, they need to bring new blood in place or new employees. They will be able to train those employees so that once they train them, they can infuse fresh blood into the organization. So technology plays a very critical role. And nowadays it has become even more easy to be able to analyze the organization needs in terms of human capital. The organizational needs in terms of human capital. So nowadays, you just need a machine or an internet, and you do all those activities. You can even work remotely. And this is as a result of technology. Long time ago, we used to go for physical meetings, but nowadays you don't need to be in a physical meeting. You can always join Zoom, and this Zoom will help you to maximize your potential as an organization. Then the other thing that will require is assessing the needs. So when we talk about assessment, we are talking about trying to look at the positions that are within the organization, trying to understand the various gaps in terms of manpower so that you can understand whether we have a shortage or a surplus in a particular department or in the organization at large. So once you do your assessment, then it becomes easier to be able to create a balance with the shortage or the surplus. Sometimes you might find in a particular department, there are many people who are doing the same job. So you can easily assess those needs and try to create a balance so that we don't have repetitive functions within the organization. So what are the importance of human resource planning? Importance of human resource planning. Number one is that it helps in identifying the gaps that exist in manpower in terms of their quality and quantity, which helps to organize suitable trainings. So you'll be able to understand the gaps between the desired manpower and the current manpower so that you bridge that gap so that those already existing employees will not be overwhelmed with the job that they are doing. The other thing is about manpower planning facilitates career succession planning in the organization. Remember, it is every person's desire that if you're in a certain position, in one way or another, you will always want to get promotion. That is our desire as employees. So in the event you get a promotion, then it is the work of the human resource planning to be able to facilitate that progression or succession where those people who are going for new positions will be able to transition more easily into their new positions. And also those ones who are remaining, they can also be incorporated. Therefore, manpower planning will help in career succession planning. This is because it provides enough lead time for internal succession of employees to higher positions through promotions. So you can easily transition well when it comes to manpower planning. Then manpower planning is an integral part of the overall business planning. This is because it helps in improving the overall planning in the organization. So at the end of the day, you have to do planning, whether you like it or not. You have to incorporate planning in your day-to-day activity as the human resource department. And this also will help you to get the right people for the right job at the right time. And that is why we always have a pool or a database where we have the potential employees who have an interest in working for that particular organization. And that is why you might have gone for an interview maybe last year or last year but one. Then all of a sudden you get a call from that organization that you went for an interview. And because they want the manpower now, they will always reach out to you, and they can also give you that opportunity if you never got an opportunity in another place. So manpower planning facilitates the expansion and diversification of the organization. Remember, we talked about an organization where the organization wants to grow or to diversify or to expand their business. So it is naturally to say that once an organization wants to expand their business, they will be required to plan for the manpower who are going to the new businesses that the organization wants to venture into. Look at Safaricom. Safaricom started as a telecommunication company, but over the years, they have tried their level best to diversify into M-Pesa. Therefore, M-Pesa is a branch of Safaricom. But there was a plan to make M-Pesa to become independent. But if that is the case, then it means you will need people to work for M-Pesa. You will need people to work for other positions within the bigger company. And that is as a result of diversification and expansion of your business. So human resource will help to plan for human capital. So manpower planning leads to a great awareness about the effectiveness of sound manpower throughout the organization. Remember, before you bring people into the organization, you need to understand those people so that you bring people who are of sound mind to the organization. And that is why you normally do some job evaluation or job analysis, or people, you try to analyze the people through interviews so that you bring the right people to the organization. And these people are going to help the organization to become more effective in what they do in their day-to-day activities. It also helps in judging the effectiveness of human resource policies and programs of management. Sometimes organizations will come up with policies or programs for the benefit of employees. And the best way to do that is to analyze the number of employees you have through human resource planning, so that when you want to come up with programs like the mental awareness programs, so you might find that organizations are coming up with different programs with the intention of ensuring that employees are aware of what is happening around. For example, they came up with the mental awareness program. So the focus of mental awareness program is to try to create a balance where people are suffering because of some reasons that are beyond them. And this leads to what is called depression. And yesterday, as I was seeing the news, I heard that there was a lady who was working in the health industry who committed suicide. And one of the reasons that led to this is the mental issues. And one of the arguments was that the lady was not paid the internship. So because of not being paid, the lady decided to commit suicide. So those are some of the issues that organizations are seeing, and they are saying we need to create mental awareness. You might see people smiling or having the plastic smiles, but deep within them, they are suffering. So organizations, through different initiatives, have been able to create what is called mental awareness programs. The other program that is very, very critical is the work-life balance. Work-life balance. So that you need to create a balance between your work and also your family. Remember, the family will be with you for a very long time. So if the work ends and you didn't create that good relationship with your family, then what happens? And that is why sometimes people are encouraged to go on leave. But some people have never gone on leave because they believe or they feel when they go on leave, work is not going to happen. And that is a very poor mentality of some people. And that is why it is always important to educate people, educate them so that they will understand that as much as you are working for us, you need also to create another life out of work. Go on leave. Others are even forced to go on leave, and that is very, very dangerous. Other programs that the organizations are trying to embrace is sustainability. Sustainability programs. And this is a very, it's a new thing in organization where as much as the organization is in operation, they will also want to look at the future, how the future looks like. So that you, as you are working today, you also need to consider your survival in the future. And one of the reasons that led to this sustainability program is the issue of coronavirus in 2019, 2020, where some organizations were shaken as a result of corona. So organizations have seen the need of trying to incorporate some of these trainings and policies. And currently we are talking about data protection. And by data protection programs, remember we are in the era of technology, and it is very easy for people to try to defraud the company based on the data that is available. Remember, if you're a company like Safaricom, you normally deal with the personal data of customers, personal data of employees, and many others. So it is very important to be able to protect this data. And there was some arguments, I think last month but one, where they were talking about the data of customers, where people were just abducted and they failed to wonder where was the government getting this data. So it is very important, as much as you're working, you need to protect the data of your customers, the data of your employees, among others, the data of your suppliers, and many other things. So when you look at some of these programs, the main focus of these programs is to be able to create awareness about the effectiveness of the manpower, the effectiveness of the employees who are working for that organization. We have other programs that organizations can also incorporate for purposes of ensuring effectiveness in operation. Then beneficial to countries, especially at national level, manpower planning facilitates educational reforms, geographical mobility, talent and employment generation. So it is very important, even in the government or national-wide, to embrace manpower planning, because it leads to a lot of reforms when it comes to employee reforms, when it comes to mobility in terms of geographical mobility. You also will be able to get new talents and also lead to employee generation. So once we understand that, any question before we proceed? Yes, Lillian. Lillian, any question? As we wait for Lillian, Ali, you have a question?
I have no question, Mwalimu.
Okay, Rosalind.
No question.
Samuel. Samuel. Okay, Lillian, no question. Samuel, you have a question? Okay, seems Samuel does not have a question. So let us talk about employee recruitment. Employee recruitment. Employee recruitment. So when you look at the local dailies today, you will find that we have a lot of advertisement in the local dailies. When you go to the internet, you will find that we have third-party organizations who have been given the responsibilities of trying to locate talent or prospective employees within the organization. When you go into different organizations' websites, you will find in the career page, they will want new employees to come into the organization. So when we talk about recruitment, what comes into our mind? So recruitment, according to Edwin Flippo, is the process of searching for prospective employees and stimulating them to apply for jobs in the organization. So you are looking for prospective employees or potential employees who have an interest in that company, who want to work for that company. Therefore, the only easiest way to bring those people on board is by recruiting them. So what are some of the methods of recruitment? What are some of the methods of recruitment? One of the methods of recruitment is called direct method. A direct method. And direct method is a method where the organizations would go directly to the educational institutions or professional institutions and try to contact the administration of those schools or the human resource in those institutions so that they can identify students who have talent. And once they identify those students, they will always poach them into working for the organization. A good way of doing that, let me use an example where we have Equity Bank with their programs. I don't know the name of the program. So once they give you an opportunity and they give you scholarship, once you finish the scholarships, you will come back to work for them for some number of years before they can release you. So that is another initiative where organizations are involved directly and they are trying their level best to look for talents in the educational institutions. And this is also very common when you are talking about the STEM courses, science and technology courses, where most organizations will go into those schools and try to look for students who are interested to join either engineering, either medicine, and other critical jobs in different organizations. So direct method is that method where organizations are more engaged in trying to look for new talents and trying to contact them. Then we also have indirect method. Indirect method. This is where the organization will want to invest on advertising in newspapers, advertising on radio, trying to create trade fairs, publishing professional journals, technical journals, and also having brochures where they would want to lure people up, to lure prospective employees to apply for jobs into their organization. Then the last method is a third-party method, And this is also a very common method that organizations are doing. And one of the issues, I think, why they prefer the third-party method is because of the issues of cost. Remember, looking for potential employees is not easy. So they will rather prefer to look for consultants or agencies who have been specialized in that area, so that at the end of the day, they'll be able to cut on cost when it comes to issues of advertising, issues of trying to look at employees and moving around, which is very costly to them. So they will want to concentrate on core activities so that the other activities, they will leave them to third parties. So examples of third parties could be commercial and private employee agencies. Commercial and private employees agencies. For example, I think I know one which is, I think, outdoor agencies, where their main focus is to look for employees. We also have Brighter Monday, which is also very common as an agency to look for employees. Then we also have state agencies. And the work of a state agency is to work on behalf of the government to try to look for potential employees who are interested in working for the government. Which agency do you know that works for the government? State agency? Yes? Yes, Rosalind? Any state agency that helps in recruiting government officials? Yes?
I can guess public service.
Public service is an institution of government. An agent works on behalf. But that was a good trial. Ali? Zani?
I'm not sure. Maybe ombudsman or something.
Which one?
Ombudsman.
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 Yeah.
Okay. Lillian? Lillian is saying, let's see, public service, state agency. Samuel?
I seem not to be sure, Mwalimu.
Okay. You can go do research. I'm also not sure. But I believe in government, they normally use the Public Service Commission, which is a commission that works on behalf of the government. Then we have placement offices of the colleges and universities. So in every university, in every college, there is a placement office. And the work of placement office is to allocate different students into different organizations or institutions, maybe in terms of internship or in terms of attachment. So once you get attached to a particular institution or in a particular organization, if they like what you do, they can always retain you into internship programs, and later they can employ you into the organization. Then we also have professional association recruitment firms. These are firms that deal with professionals, and their main focus is to capitalize on different professions so that they can recruit those professions on behalf of the organizations. Okay, what are some of the sources of employee recruitment? Sources of employees recruitment. So when we talk about sources of employee recruitment, we are trying to look at some of the outlets where you can easily get potential employees who are suitable and interested for that particular job. Where then can you get those people? They are divided into two. Number one, we have internal sources, and number two, we have external sources of employees. So let us look at the internal sources of employee recruitment. So when we talk about internal sources, these are sources that are within the confines of the organization. And the organization has easy access to these people. And one of the sources is through promotions. When employees are promoted to the next level, they will always leave a gap behind. Therefore, it is the responsibility of the human resource to try and look at the internal capacity. And that is why it is always advisable that every year you need to upload or update your details in your profile, in your organization profile. So that if you have a degree, you just go and update. If you have a master's, you go and update. If you have a doctor of philosophy, you go and update. If you finish this professional course called the HRP, you will update. So that when they are looking for potential employees or existing employees for promotions, you will always be among those people who will get promotions. However, promotions are not really automatic. They will also look at your attitude as an employee. They will look at your character and other important factors that are considered. So promotion is one of the internal sources. Then we also have transfers. We have organizations that are big in terms of branch. For example, you might be in Nairobi and there's a branch in Western, or there's a branch in Coast, or there's another branch in Central. And maybe you want to get transferred to those areas. So they will have to look for an opportunity for you in that branch that you want to get transfers. Then once they transfer you, they will leave a gap behind, and they will obviously look for an existing employee or even a potential employee who is going to fit or to fix that gap. So transfers are very common. Transfers can be as a result of voluntary transfer or initiated transfers. Voluntary is where an employee would want to go to human resource and request them for a transfer. If it is voluntary, the agreement is normally where the employee must look for another employee in that branch who is interested to come to where you are currently so that you can swap. So that is voluntary, where you want to get a transfer. But initiated transfers is where the management decides to transfer people, maybe because of other issues. And this is very common in departments like procurement, where you get in touch with suppliers most of the time. And because they don't want you to compromise the functions, or they don't want you to bring your affiliations there, They will decide to transfer you after every 2 years. You are transferred to another branch after every 2 years. So you rotate like that to avoid cases of corruption and others. I don't know for other departments like the human resource, but for procurement or supply chain for that matter, they always do that. Then present employees, you can also get a lot of information on recruitment to already existing employees who are there and who are qualified. So you can easily promote them by virtue of their qualification. Then we have external sources. These are sources that are outside the organization. And the organization has little or no control of these sources. For example, we can talk about educational institutions. And these are colleges, tertiary institutions like colleges, universities, and professional bodies. For example, College of Human Resource is an educational institution. Sometimes you might want talent in those institutions you just walk into, and you will get a placement officer who is in charge of that. Then press advertisement. This is where you decide to either go to print media or to the other media is called print media. We have the main media, or you can also decide to take it to social media. Nowadays, we have social media where you advertise your job there. Potential employees or prospecting employees can have an opportunity to participate in recruitment. Then we have private employment institutions. Private employment institutions. These are agencies that have been given the responsibility, or their main focus is to recruit people on behalf of the organizations. And remember, I talked about outdoor, I talked about Brighter Monday, I talked about other institutions like the Job Mag and many others. Then we have unsolicited applicants. These are just people who apply randomly. They look at an advertisement on a newspaper and they just apply, or they can come into your website and just apply. So they are unsolicited applicants. Then personnel consultants. So once you finish this course, Human Resource, College of Human Resource, CHRP, Certified Human Resource Profession, you might decide in future to start your own consultancy firm where you will be dealing with human capital, training and development. So once you have that in place, you can be hired by other institutions to perform recruitment on their behalf. Therefore, you become a personnel consultant or a human resource consultant. So you need to look at that. Consultancy is very important. So you can also figure out on how you can open your own consultant or consultancy firm. Then let us look at selection. Selection. So So it is the process of selecting the best candidate out of the available and rejecting the unsuitable candidates. So once you recruit people, remember many people will be applying for those jobs. Those who are qualified for that job and also those who are not qualified for that job. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry who is interested to work for that particular organization will apply for that job. So it is upon you as the human resource to select the best candidate in that available list and reject those candidates that you feel are not suitable for that particular position. So once you select them, then you can now shortlist them and arrange for an interview with them. So selection is the process of choosing the most suitable personnel or person for the current position or for the future position from within the organization or outside the organization. So you are selecting or choosing the suitable candidate for the current position or for future position. So if you want to fill an existing position and you have many candidates who are also good for that position, you can select the best candidate, and the second best, you can also put them for the future positions in the event you have a future position. So what is the selection procedure? What is the selection procedure? What is the selection procedure? But before I talk about the selection procedure, any question? Question? So, selection of workers is regarded as a policy matter. Every enterprise has its own policy for recruitment. So there is no standard way of selecting employees. These policies are specific to that specific organization. So you might be in telecommunication industry. Your selection criteria could be very different from someone who is in manufacturing or from someone who is in the retail sector or others who are in government. So depending on your industry or your organization, you will always have different policies that will guide you during selection of employees. So, however, the following procedure could be adopted when you are selecting potential employees. Number one is to receive and scrutinize the application. Receive and scrutinize the application. So you need to receive first the application and scrutinize the application. After receiving the application and screening them, the applicants of candidates without the necessary qualifications are rejected. So we have what is called the minimum qualification. If somebody does not have the minimum qualification, then those candidates are automatically rejected. They are automatically rejected. Therefore, sending the blanket application form, after preparing the list of candidates suitable for the job, blanket application form will be sent to the candidate, who then will be required to fill the application form and submit them back by indicating the name, address, educational qualification, experience, and salary expected. And I don't know why they normally talk about the salary expectation. To me, I feel it is discriminatory What is your take on that? Expected salary. Yes, Ali. Why? Why should you ask?
This is,
Yes.
I think it's basically to try and see whether the person who has applied,
Yes.
or you are trying to match his expectations versus what you can afford as an organization. Because sometimes his expectations might be too high, such that even if you give him the opportunity, he'll not get satisfied and he'll never be able to deliver.
Okay, that's good. Yes. Lillian, what is your take on that? As we wait for Lillian, Roslyn? Ros
They ask maybe to see if the candidate is within the budget.
Okay, if the candidate is within the budget. Yes, Samuel? Sam?
Okay, thank you, Malim. I agree with both Ali and Lillian. And maybe just to add, I think it is
Yes.
very important because you know, sometimes you may end up wasting candidates' time when actually maybe the expectation is high and your budget is a bit lower, or you know, you are not able to afford them, and you do interviews, everything, then at the tail end, now you are not able to agree. But when you know from the start the expectation, there are people that are also prospective candidates to you, so you avoid wasting one another's time. So it is important to know one's expectation. What sometimes maybe I disagree with is demanding to know the current salary of others.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that issue of wanting to know how much you're paid and you're told to attach some pay slips, sometimes I feel is not the best approach. Maybe, and if you try to tell them that you give a range, they don't want to accept the range. They want the specific amount that you're paid. So then the other step is a preliminary interview where you can decide to have an oral interview. And the main focus of the interview basically is to try to get the suitability of the candidate for that position, either in terms of physicality and mentality for the job. Remember, when you have an interview, a one-on-one interview, it is very easy for the interviewer to be able to understand the character of the person who is being interviewed. So the preliminary interview is very important because it helps you to understand the attitude, the behavior of the candidates more easily. And you can also ask as many questions as you want for purposes of trying to make a decision at the end of the day. Then the other thing about preliminary interviews is to be able to ensure that the applicants are fit or not fit for the job. Then you also need to administer tests. This is where you give potential employees a test. So once you have these tests, it's normally referred to as an aptitude test, where they have to fill some questions and you try to test their intelligence. And normally it is a multiple choice question. Sometimes I feel that one is not okay, according to me, because it is more discriminatory, because we have some students who already have the exams, yet you are putting others under pressure to be able to fill these aptitude tests. Yes. And remember, you can't test the intelligence of somebody by just a mere piece of paper. Sometimes there are people who are not good in terms of trying to answer the questions, but when it comes to productivity, you will find that these people are very good. That is according to me. According to you guys, what do you think? These tests, are they normally effective? Anyone can answer?
Maybe I can go first, Mwalimu.
Yes.
I think I agree with you on this. I don't find it accurate to, you know, for example, somebody who has qualified, you know, when you advertise for a position, you put your
Yes.
qualifications, and you know, the best place that these people, you can gauge if they are qualified. For example, if you want a HRP, somebody who's done HRP, then you can be sure that before they go their certificates from HRMPEB, then
Yes.
they are certified. So to again purport to give them some questions, I don't think that is okay. But they call them aptitude tests.
Okay, Ali.
I also agree with you, Mwalimu, because there are some people who are
Yes.
so good in talking, so good. Maybe whatever they learned in school, they
Yes.
can easily interpret it such that anakuconvince kabisa kuwa this is the right person. But ukimleta kwa kazi, utaona that person does not know anything. So these tests, I also find them not that reliable, according to me.
Okay. Roslyn, do you agree or disagree?
I concur with that.
Okay, and we have Lillian. Lillian is saying, I support questions because character is very important. The person should organization culture, but it has to be a good system, not just any. Okay. Then checking reference on investigation of previous history. That one is okay. You're doing background checks for the potential employees, trying to understand these employees, trying to do what is called educational backgrounds, so that you don't get people who never went to that school, yet they have certificates for that school from River Road. So it is always important to do educational backgrounds, so that when somebody says he or she has a master's degree, make sure you go to that university. And there's a way nowadays you just enter the serial number and you can get the student's details there. Then you also need to look at the other checks like the skills. Some people might say that they have a particular skill on paper, yet they do not have that. And that is why when you go to some interviews, you are told to do some Excels or some presentations. And the main focus is to look at the skills that you have. There was a time I went for an interview of marketing. Remember, I've done marketing. So they told me to sell something for them. And it was one of the difficult interviews that I ever did. So I was told to sell something or a product, which I succeeded. But the main focus was to test the skill that you have. Then they will also want to test your character and ability. Character is very important. And it's better to get people who have a positive character rather than just picking somebody who has a very bad attitude. And this is very common in organizations. For those people who are brought by their relatives into a particular position, they will always feel that they are better off than the others who have been in that position or who were selected fairly and squarely for those positions. So it is important, as much as you get an opportunity to work in a particular firm by virtue of being brought, always guard your character. Character is very important. And they always say that perception is the reality. What people perceive about you is their reality. If they feel that this person is bad, that is their reality about you. So always have a positive attitude in your job, and attitude will elevate you to many places that you can be. Then the interview is the most important step of the selection process. So this is now the actual interview that you have to do on the applicants interview. And lastly, we have the final selection. The best candidates will always be given the opportunity to come on board. Then we shall I'll want you to look at training, so that when we come next time, we shall start with the methods of training. So get time, look at training and development, and the importance of training and development, so that when we come next time, we shall start with training, and we shall start with the method of training. So far, so good. We are moving on well. So I'll allow you guys to prepare as you prepare to go to work, so that any question? There's the recording. I will record and upload on our on my channel, YouTube channel, so that when you get time, you can also be in a position to refer. And if you have a question also, you can always reach out. So there's no question. You are free to leave at your own pace. Okay, Alice, no question. Thank you. Lillian, no question. Thank you. So we can stop there for today and have a good day.